Good morning and welcome to today's edition of Coffee With. I am Shyla Gish, Member Services Manager for GNDC Retail Tomorrow. Each morning, we engage industry executives and thought leaders for a short conversation about what they see as opportunities for general merchandise and health, beauty, and wellness with Coffee With. This morning's session will focus on the perspectives of the home and housewares opportunity. Joining me today is Leanna Samalah, VP Marketing for International Housewares Association, and Patrick Spear, President and CEO for GNDC Retail Tomorrow. Before I turn it over to our guests, I want to remind everyone that we are in the final week of our virtual GM Conference and Self-Care Summit. Buyer's Choice meetings will continue today from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Check your event guide for today's learning session, Innovations in Health and Wellness. For our retail and wholesale attendees, please continue to preview the GM and self-care discovery guides to continue to book your your buyer's choice meetings, Now let me turn it over to Leanna and Patrick, and I will see you back here shortly.
Thank you, Shyla. And good morning, Leanna.
Good morning.
How are things up in Chicago?
Things are okay. It's actually, we're enjoying a slightly warmer weather today than we have the last few days, but.
Which is good because we know what's coming, right?
That's right.
So I got to tell you, I've been looking forward to this conversation since we built the conference agenda. And I feel like I need to put out a disclaimer. I know I told you this in my earlier conversations with you and Derek. I am an unapologetic housewares geek. And I absolutely love conversations about housewares and the categories and the trends and the design and everything about it. And actually, the Inspired Home Show is my second favorite industry event. I'll let you guess what my first one is, and it starts with GMDC.
That's right.
So I love everything about this industry and about the businesses you guys represent within your association, within the International Housewares Association. So I appreciate making time and joining us today because we've got a lot of our members are members of IHA, and I thought it'd be great to just get the perspective of what's going on with you guys and what's happening in the industry.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting time. When the pandemic first hit, I think just like every other industry, the immediate response or reaction was, a little bit of, fear, panic, concern that, this was going to be detrimental to business. But the fact of the matter is that our industry has been an incredibly bright spot over the last several months as people have refocused on their homes, been, trying to do more at home, spending more time at home. And, part of that is they need new housewares and new home products. So really our industry has had a pretty good year.
If you think back and I'd like to just look back for a minute and reflect on sort of where we've come this year. And I want to start with March 2nd.
Oh,
it was a Monday.
It was a Monday.
It's
a Monday to end all Mondays.
Mondays are tough to begin with. And then that specific Monday, and we were at a board meeting, and I remember about midday, we heard that Expo West had postponed or canceled. And then I believe that afternoon, we heard that you guys had to make a really tough decision around the Inspired Home Show, which was going to begin, I think, 2 weeks later. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
So, just when you guys were looking at that and you had to make that decision, because we all had to go to school on you. You guys led the way in terms of really thinking differently about how to keep the industry safe and what was required. But walk me through what that was like in that week in terms of getting that decision and what you guys were thinking might happen with the categories and the business. And then we can sort of pull forward and see where we are today and what we see ahead.
Yeah, well, about a month ahead of that full cancellation, we had already canceled our International Sourcing Expo, which was a pretty easy decision because the government had put restrictions in place on travel in from China, and the majority of those exhibitors, do come in from China. And as soon as that was done, we said, okay, that's it. We're going to be fine. And the next few weeks were just a roller coaster. Every week it was, multiple times in the same day, we felt like the winds were blowing a different way. And I can tell you that the Friday before we made that call, we were positive we were having a show. We were absolutely sure. And then on Saturday, we weren't so sure anymore. And then Sunday we were sure again. And Monday, we said, we gotta, recognizing that our exhibitors and our suppliers were starting to ship things, starting to move in, starting to get things in place. We said, we got to make a call here. And, at that time, a few cases had sprung up around the United States, a couple even in Chicago. And we said, you know what, better safe than sorry. We really need to, act in the best interest of the industry and ask ourselves, do we want to bring 130 countries together in one place right now when this thing keeps popping up all over the place? But it was painful. It was, the staff was so sad. So much work had gone into it. And to your point, Patrick, there was no playbook for this. It's unprecedented. And, we made the decision to cancel, and then the number of now what questions was overwhelming. So we spent the next several weeks trying to systematically figure out how are we going to handle all these different aspects of that cancellation. Frankly, I think it was more work to cancel the show than it would have been to put it on.
There's no doubt. And it's interesting. We had the benefit of learning from you and others because we didn't make the decision. We didn't have to make the decision about our June conference until later in April. But to your point, no playbook. And really, I use the term staring into the abyss as you're trying to determine what to do. But clearly, we look back now with the benefit of reflection and time and say you guys were spot on in terms of making a really bold step and keeping your members and the industry safe. That would have been obviously a very challenging event in Chicago that time of year with everything that was going on. So
thanks for that. I think that, there's a lot of other show organizers who I know from my, other points in my career, and everybody was incredibly supportive. Everyone who reached out was incredibly supportive, but also I think really grateful that because someone was going to have to make the hard call, right? And once we did, we watched dominoes fall every day for the next several weeks. And I think somebody just had to raise their hand or call a timeout and say, is this really the right thing to do right now?
No, that's absolutely right. But now as we've I guess navigated and migrated through this, and again, we're still on the path, and there's still more to unfold or to be exposed as we move forward. But as we've gone through this and we got used to the term essential retail and non-essential and terms we'd never used before.
Yeah.
Obviously, some sectors of the retail vertical were negatively impacted, were impaired, non-essential. But in terms of what we see with our membership, grocery, drug, mass, value, these channels that were and are deemed essential, and then what we've seen now with consumer behavior, restaurants closing, people doing more at home, cocooning, spending more time, perhaps thinking differently about products they bring into their home and how they use them. Let's talk about what you guys have seen and where you've seen pockets that really surprised you in terms of category performance or things that, maybe were unexpected in terms of what happened with consumers and purchasing out at retail.
Yeah, I think that from a consumer standpoint, certainly, once everyone started to focus in on the home and we started to realize that's what they were doing, a lot of what we were seeing in the numbers started to make a lot of sense. I will tell you that in addition to, the situation allowing a lot of our members who were already doing well to continue doing well, we had a couple of categories, cook and bakeware, home textiles, that actually have had a better year than they've had in the past as these consumer habits have changed and as people are really kind of nesting in their homes and creating environments for the long term to work, to school, to, exist. I would say that, again, overall, things going really well. Cook and bakeware and textiles are maybe not surprising when you think about it in retrospect, but just the trajectory that those categories had been on, it's really a nice bump for them.
We've had a number of our retailer and wholesaler executives speaking over the course of our conference, and we've, inquired around what have you seen and what trends do you think are going to, sustain, the move towards e-commerce and, buy online, pick up in store and these things, speculating and contemplating what trends remain. Yeah. It seems to me, and I have no data to support this, but it seems to me a lot of the habits that we've embraced, that we've, built during the last 6 months are likely to continue.
Right.
In terms of whether it's being more adventurous and cooking and trying new recipes or, doing new things because we've been forced to, be in our homes. Yep. Or how we think about, entertaining or, small groups outside, or how we think about our, our patio setups and all these things that directly translate into housewares and home opportunities. It seems to me that these will likely be lasting trends, although obviously as we head into winter, certainly in a large part of the United States, some of these habits will have to be modified as people are forced to be inside.
Yeah, certainly. I think too, what we're going to find is that, and I'll use myself as an example, but I think this is pretty common is, my house was never necessarily designed or, maintained to be a home office, a homeschooling environment, as well as kind of a, family and communal place. So it's been interesting to, for myself, but also for other folks out there to not just, it's not just that they're doing more activities in their home, they also have to really rethink how they're using the space in their home. I have 2 school-age children who have been at home and then I'm working at home. So you've got 3 different people who need a certain degree of privacy and alone time, but they still need an environment that's conducive to being productive. So it's really created a lot of, rethinking of how the space is organized, which I think begs the question of, and frankly, I can't wait to see how our suppliers and manufacturers respond to those types of things with new innovations and new products that help consumers kind of figure that out.
Well, that's a great point, and I guess the question that leads me to is, are you getting any previews? Are you getting any word of how the supplier community is responding, or where they're going to be investing or spending time to try and create more innovation? You got any tip-offs or any ideas what's coming?
Yeah. I don't know that I have any sneak previews of any products per se, but I will say that there are some specific kind of consumer needs that are coming out of this pandemic that I think our industry is actively responding to right now. Some of those include, and some of them are emotional and, and less tangible, but this whole need for kind of security and safety and, and certainly sanitation goes along with that. But that bridges everything from cleaning products to, again, textiles, because there's a comfort and a security part of that that's very physical in nature. And safety, making sure that, your home is safe and that everything's going on in your home is safe. The other thing that's interesting that will no doubt last, and I'm one of these as well, is the number of people who got new pets during the pandemic. So the need for, pet supplies and the increase in, the number of pet owners out there. We have a COVID kitten ourselves, but there's, that's certainly going to stick around. And then the other, there was one more I had on here. Let me see if I can find it. Just comfort in general, I think, just feeling comfort and making sure the home is a place of sanctuary.
There's we have a dog. His name is Theo, and he just actually, as we were sitting here talking, he just walked into my office, and we came close. My wife said about a month ago that Theo needs a friend, and I emphatically said no, he does not need a friend. I do not need another dog. One is plenty. I got all I need. He barks and runs around and chases things. That's enough. But you're right. I think a lot of people have, gotten pets during this time, have rethought their home decor needs.
Mm-hmm.
About our categories, we think at GMDC Retail Tomorrow, we cover general merchandise and health, beauty, wellness, the self-care categories. So many of our categories and our members have been positively impacted during this time. And I think about how many areas the Housewares Association touches, whether it's cleaning or appliances or home decor, textiles, all these areas that, as people have spent time at home, have fundamentally reimagined how these play in their life or how they bring them joy and, how they think about the space they create.
Yeah, I mean, personal care is another area that's really taken off with personal groomers and other types of activities where people aren't going, for a long time, we weren't going out to get haircuts or we weren't, going out to get our nails done or to a spa. And some of those habits, once you learn how to do it and it seems easy and it's, less time, you may, you'll wind up sticking with that. You may wind up, doing your own personal care at home versus paying for services. The other thing that I would touch on is, we talked about reusing the space in the home and these types of things, but the other thing I think is going to be interesting coming out of this is, the continuation of kind of family activities and how those have really evolved. There's a series that I did a webinar a little while back and talking about how people spend their time and how they did, how they are, and how they will. And what, we were an overscheduled group of people, all of us, mean, especially families, kids were shuttling through activities and schools and play dates and birthday parties. And And once all that stopped and the kids were at home and the family was together, how are you going to spend your time? I mean, toys and games certainly took off during that time, and closely following it was a lot of things that facilitated cooking and baking with children, with family, with, coming together. Bread making machines. We all assumed at first that the bread making machines were flying off the shelves because there was no bread on the shelves for people to buy. But it actually has become a real source of comfort and camaraderie within the home to create and to bake together. And when activities start up again, as they have in a lot of places, I think a lot of parents like myself will think twice about going back to the degree of overscheduling we had versus guarding some of that time a little more jealously to spend at home together.
I think that's exactly right. It's interesting. And we are, in my house, we are empty nest. But our kids will be home for the holidays, but my daughter is working from home in Atlanta, and her office is shut down, but she has really taken up cooking, and she'll call us or send us a text and tell us, show us a recipe or something. And she's already stated out loud that when she comes home for Thanksgiving, she intends to help her mom this year with meal preparation and wants to try some new recipes and do all that. So I'm seeing it firsthand in that that's always been our role. We're going to do all the Thanksgiving cooking, and now our kids are stepping in, at least my daughter saying, no, actually I'd like to help, and I've been working on some stuff, and I think those will be lasting trends for us as well.
Yeah.
And that's not anything I saw coming back in March.
Well, and we talked specifically about some of, your member retailers and, the categories of, the mass merchandisers and the grocery stores and all of those really, did just an incredible service to everybody by, staying open and making sure that everyone could still, get in there and get the necessities that, they had. But what's happened then is that consumers become increasingly used to buying things other than that. Grocery was already really, really taking advantage of home and housewares opportunities, really starting to come along, and we're really excited about it. But it's just going to be accelerated here as now folks, they're more than ever going to want to do a one-stop shop, and they're already now, as a function of this, completely used to buying home and housewares products at a grocery store, as opposed to feeling like they have to go to a different channel for that. 80% of our supplier members tell us that they expect the mass merchandising and the grocery channels to be their two most important channels next year.
Tell you what, that's really exciting. And the, again, looking back and this notion of essential and non-essential, I am so proud to work in this industry and to work with these retailers and suppliers that really kept people safe and kept us going in the early days of it, and now are helping us navigate to the future. And to your point, there is nothing but opportunity for the housewares industry within the channels we together serve, whether it's grocery, mass, drug, value. There's so much opportunity for these categories. And again, high margin, great design, innovation. And so tell me, from the standpoint, Leanna, as you look ahead, you guys now have made the decision to position the Inspired Home Show in, I believe, early August next year in Chicago?
Correct. It will be August 7th through 10th.
And again, I think from standpoint of, again, from a historic March standpoint, that probably was a real puzzle trying to work out the dates and find a window that you could push it into the summer.
Yeah, I'm incredibly grateful to the industry, both on the retailer and supplier side, for their participation in us making that decision, because we have absolutely, surveyed the life out of them related to, whether or not this would work. Does it mess with the buying cycle? Is it appropriate? Is it going to be useful? Are you going to feel, what do you think about, traveling and coming to a trade show in person in August? And what we found overwhelmingly was that March felt too soon. It just, there was a lot of hesitation, but the degree of confidence in being able to travel, being willing to travel, and being able to be, in a face-to-face environment like ours again, went up, astronomically once you got to Q3 of next year. So, and in terms of the buying cycle, what we heard from everyone is that those who still are on a buying cycle, things are a little screwy right now anyway. So for 1 year to, people are having to be a little bit more nimble in their buy cycle right now. So that was not a challenge that was presented to us as we talked to various buyers out there.
No, that's encouraging. And, we, just as we do with IHA, we talk to our friends in the association space, we've got our event scheduled June 3rd through 7th in Dallas, Texas, when we're going to bring together what we're going to be essentially is our inaugural industry summit, general merchandise and self-care categories. But what I like about what you guys are doing is, I think if, we'll start conversations in June with some of the retailers and suppliers, and those conversations can then logically continue right into the Inspired Home Show in early August. I think the timing will be perfect, and quite frankly, very complementary to what we're doing, just as it always has been, where we've had a March show and then we come in June with a GM focus. Our conversations logically have continued what was started at the Housewares or Inspired Home Show. So I think 2021 is going to enable that again, and I'm excited about it.
Likewise. I mean, I think too, if you think about it, it's not as though you flip a switch and everything goes back to normal. So people will, there will be steps taken for people to reintegrate, start to travel again, start to be comfortable in groups again. So the idea that there can be kind of, these pockets of people coming back together and, and coming face to face. And then as they become more and more comfortable, hopefully by August, we believe, there's going to be a degree of comfort in coming together as an entire industry across the board that there just isn't right now.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have been so great as partners with GMDC Retail Tomorrow over the last few years in terms of, working with us and enabling us to bring content to your members at the show. And, spoiler alert, I'll say this out loud to our viewers this morning. We love working with you guys. And
likewise.
So much opportunity for us together, whether it's content, insights, innovation, how we think about it in terms of the, what our collective members need or are looking for, and for us to help them navigate the future. So I just remain incredibly bullish and optimistic about the categories, the role that the categories can play with our retailers, the opportunities for our supplier members, both those that are, members of both organizations, or for Housewares suppliers that don't know about GMDC, or GMDC members that don't know about IHA. There's just a lot of opportunity for us to inspire together. And again, I think the repositioning of your show as the Inspired Home Show is just brilliant because it speaks to all of this, right?
Thank you for that. We absolutely, we're so delighted to have this partnership with GMDC. I mean, and again, in service of the industry, I think that our coming together and being able to work together, I think is just, it's a boon for everybody.
So it's been an interesting year. I think one that none of us would care to revisit anytime soon. But that said, we're excited about 2021, and I'm grateful for your support, Leanna, and that of Derek and the rest of the IHA team. Thank you so much for what you do for us. Thanks for joining us this morning on Coffee With. Anything you want us to be thinking about before we send our members off to their meetings? Anything we should know?
No, I mean, I think just, first of all, again, thanks for having me, and, we'll continue to trumpet the potential of home and housewares products in every retail channel out there. And I appreciate you guys doing the same.
Leanna, thank you so much. And Shyla, yes, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Leanna, have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Enjoy the rest of your event.
Thank you. Back to you, Shyla.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a fantastic conversation that was. I want to thank Leanna and Patrick for joining us this morning. Again, as a reminder for companies participating in the Buyer's Choice meetings, meetings will take place from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Eastern Time today and through the end of the week. I want to remind everyone to join us this evening as we host a virtual happy social hour. Tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's get together, socialize safely with fun trivia and prizes. I hope to see you there. Also, be sure to listen to Thursday's Coffee With session, which will provide a perspective of the beauty and personal care. Joining us will be Brent Beebe, Senior Vice President, Merchandising for Bartell Drug, Rich Baruch, Senior Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer for Elf Beauty, and Riley Murray, GMDC Retail Tomorrow Board Member and President for L&R Distributors. Have another great day of meetings and stay safe. If anyone has any questions or we can be of any service, please call or email us at memberservices@gmdc.org. Thanks and have a great day.